Are you planning for a baby? Maybe you haven't yet conceived, maybe you're already pregnant, or even maybe you've delivered your baby already and you're looking at the mounting expenses and they don't quite match up your income. And you're just thinking that you wish you knew certain tips to help you manage your resources while still giving your baby the very best. Then this video is for you. In this video, I'll just be talking about tips that can help you save money while still ensuring that you're catering to this little human being the best that you can. Okay, so let's get into it. Hello guys, if you're new here, then welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you. So like I said, in this video, we'll just be talking through some tips that I've learned from my personal experience on how you can manage your finances while still planning thoroughly for your baby. Okay, so start off, I'll talk about my personal experience where I'll extract some tips from and then continue along with some other tips. If you need to skip to certain parts of the video, you could always find the chapters in the description. So from our personal experience, we already knew that it was going to be a financial kind of like undertaking having a child, regardless of your means. So we're trying as much as possible to see how we could plan and just provide in advance of our babies coming. And the only way we could think of was to just set out a sum of money every month in anticipation of when we would conceive and when we would finally give birth to our baby. So that's literally what we did. Set aside a sum of money into a high interest savings account and allowed it accumulate while we're still thinking, while we're still planning, and before our baby came. And I found that that was very helpful because it kind of provided us with a little sum that could start off the process when our baby now came. So the second thing we did was that we made sure we qualified for the maternity allowance. That's like the occupational maternity pay and statutory maternity pay. We just made sure that we're eligible and sort of had an insight as to what that fee would be or what that pay would be. So if you have no clue what maternity allowance is, what maternity pay is, what SMP or an OMP mean, and how that varies, then you need to watch my video on maternity pay. So please just run and go and watch it. All right then, so apart from that, we also made sure to downsize our budget. So we kind of looked at our budget and we're just trying to see, based on our income, were we spending more than our means? Like, were we kind of like living larger than we ought to have been living? We looked at our rent, we looked at like other major recurring expenses and just try to see if there's anything that we could save up from those expenses. And lastly, we made sure that we bought barely what was essential. Like, I know that there's a lot that you can buy for a baby and a lot of it is for aesthetics, and I wasn't really trying to do aesthetics. I was trying to be very practical because I really just want a situation whereby I'm saving for my baby's future at the same time. So we weren't just trying to make sure that we had enough for our baby, but also enough to start saving for our baby's future, maybe like with a junior ISA or something like that. So it was based on this knowledge that we were like, okay, we really don't need to buy that £300 crib or something like that. So that's what I mean by we bought what we thought was essential. Yeah, so based on what we did, like this little personal experience that we had, we actually started the journey and started to navigate new tips, or started to find new tips along the way. So I think the first thing I would say in regards to the tips is you really need to find out where you are financially and if this is the best time for you to have a baby. And it might sound a bit weird, but I was checking on Reddit a couple of days. I can't remember what I was doing, but I stumbled on a story of a couple, and they're basically trying to ask the audience, like the people, the Reddit readers, just to give them sort of like advice on their current situation. So they were working 2 jobs and they had, I think, 2 cars, and they were paying like a huge amount in rent and a couple of things like that, and they were also thinking about having a baby. But by the time they looked at their budget, they looked at what comes in and what they had to spend on, they realized that they weren't going to be able to manage having a baby given all the expenses that come with having a baby. And I really love how the readers actually responded as per, you need to look at what your current financial state is. From what you said, you don't have the resources to do this. So do you downsize your life, or rather downsize your budget, so that you can make sure that this dream of yours is achieved? Do you wait for a later date when you feel like you'll be in a more stable space and you have more of an income to be able to make sure that this baby is well catered for. And I think that's something that everyone needs to do at the start of this journey. Just get yourself in that headspace of what's my financial state like what do I have that I can spare for a whole new human being. So like I've already said earlier, create a precise monthly budget. I think that goes without saying. I feel like every person should actually have a monthly budget, because my mom always says something like, if you don't plan for something, the thing will plan for you. So like if you don't actually have a specific plan as to how you're actually going to utilize your income, as to how you're going to manage your expenses, it's very possible that it will get away from you, and at the end of the month you see that you don't have anything. So if you have a very precise monthly budget for your family, it's pretty easy for you to just add your baby in. And when I say add your baby in, I mean like it will be very helpful, like based on our story and based on how I've communicated with a couple of my friends that are in similar spaces. It would actually be very helpful for you to build up a fund ahead of your baby's coming. And if you have like 9 months and you build up a fund with, let's say, like £100 or £200 every month, that's about 1,800 after the 9-month periods. And apart from that, you get the interest that would have been amounting on this money because you would have put it in a high interest savings account. So I think that's also very worthwhile. So consider that as well. I also think that when you're planning your budget, you need to be very practical and think about whether you actually qualify for the OMP and the SMP if you're already pregnant. And if you're not pregnant, then try and make sure that you qualify before you go on the journey of actually conceiving, so that you can make sure that whatsoever reality you're planning in terms of your budget actually is the reality. Like you're not just planning some sort of fantasy. You actually know that based on your company's like regulations, this is the amount of money that you would have. So in that budget planning, there's a lot that comes into it. It's like, what exactly is the amount of money we're going to be earning as at that time, so we can plan our budget accordingly. And at the same time, how much are we willing to spare for our baby ahead of our baby's coming? And then after our baby comes, what are the recurring expenses that we should expect, and should we add some more money to the money we're already sparing for our baby based on that? And do we want to continue maybe saving up? If you're maybe saving up for a house, if you're maybe saving up for investment, do we want to continue this during like the early period of caring for our baby where the expenses are really high? So those are things you need to consider. With your budget, you need to make sure that you're strictly implementing it. Honestly, by the time you've outlined what your income is and what your expenses are, and you've audited your expenses to make sure that those are things that you really need, and you've made sure that you downsized on whatever you can, you now need to make sure that you're actually strictly implementing it. Like everyone has it at the back of their mind that this is what they can spend for this particular thing, and they don't exceed it. And not exceeding it doesn't mean that you then go take like your credit card and use your credit card. You also need to be disciplined in that as well, and make sure you avoid credit card spending beyond what you have. If not, you just end up amounting debt, and that's not what we're going for at the end of the day. So those are things to really consider with your budget. So another tip would be to manage your medical subscriptions. So I think with doctors or with nurses, and I think some other health workers, you definitely would have a couple of medical subscriptions, from your indemnity to your registration with your medical council to maybe your portfolio as a trainee. And I think there should be maybe like a BMA, or maybe if you're registered with any other association, there could be fees that come with that. And while you're pregnant, it's good that you start looking at what the rules and regulations regarding concessions are, because a lot of these organizations have concessions for people who are on maternity leave or paternity leave. And a lot of the time the concession is as much as 50%, and even in some of them you can actually completely suspend it or completely cancel the membership for the duration of your maternity leave and return back. But what you would do when you cancel those subscriptions would be that you wouldn't be paying at all. So I'll give my own personal example. So because I have an RCGP subscription and I also have a BMA subscription, I actually cancelled my BMA subscription. So that means I'm not paying anything for that now. And at the same time, I also suspended my RCGP, which means I'm also not paying anything for my RCGP. So the only thing I'm actually currently paying for is my GMC, and because I did the concession, it means I'm paying 50%, and I feel like that's also a very good relief. So you could also consider that as well. Same thing with medical indemnity as well. Just check for the concession rates and make sure that you're making the best of this period. So these tips I'll be giving now are just generally regarding like your spending actually for the baby. So the first thing I would say is just make sure that you're spending on the initial must-haves. So there's this idea that you need to make sure that every single thing is available before your baby comes, and I think that that's not necessarily the most financially prudent idea, and I think it's backed up by the fact that our mothers those days, they didn't really have a lot of the luxurious items that we have now, and they actually took care of their babies well. I'm not saying that these items haven't been helpful. In fact, a lot of them are very helpful, but you don't necessarily need all of them. I'll give an example for myself. I got like tummy tippy feeding set, which was awesome. It's been awesome for us, but I honestly think I've only used it 4 times, and the reason why I've only used it maybe 5, yeah, but not a significant amount of times, and the reason why I've only used it such few times is because most times like I'm able to breastfeed my baby, so I've not necessarily needed to express as much, and I've not necessarily needed to bottle feed as much. So those are some of the things that I mean when I say just try and pace yourself when you're buying these things. Make sure it's the initial must-haves that you put on ground initially, and then subsequently you can build on that. We have Amazon Prime nowadays. There are other quick delivery methods that you can use to make sure that you have whatever you need as promptly as you need it, so you don't necessarily need to go and hoard up a lot before your baby comes. So you can ask your midwife, you can ask your health visitor, you can ask your GP what are the essential things that are necessary for the baby, and make sure you go ahead to procure those things. Okay, it's important you even know what these things are ahead of time, because there are usually sale seasons in the UK, which is another tip regarding like spending for your baby. There are sale seasons in the UK where different brands go and they really subsidize like the amount of money for the specific item you're trying to go for. Like in the December sale seasons, a lot of the bassinets went for cheaper prices, and if you know that you're going to have your baby in the near future, like you're already pregnant and you're expecting your baby, it will be good for you to take advantage of those sale seasons. Maybe the December sales, that's the Boxing Day sales, maybe the November sales, the Black Friday sales, maybe the summer sales, maybe Easter sales as well. So take advantage of those sale seasons and buy some of those big items like the prams, the bassinets, the bed, things like that. Okay, second-hand items have actually become a big thing, and also that most times when you're having a baby, there are probably other people in your friend group that also are having a baby. So this is a way that you can actually manage your expenses for the big items. For example, if you have a bassinet and your friend is about to give birth, it's always something that your friend could take use of, and then after, whenever you want to have your next baby, you could always take back. And I hear like a lot of people in the mom groups I'm currently in, they actually have that kind of system with their family members, with their friends. So they share like big items. They obviously change the mattress, like get their own mattress, get their own sheets and everything, but they basically like the expensive item, which is the bassinet itself, they kind of like roll it around, so whenever you need it you get it back, that kind of thing. So that's one thing. Or you can just go for a second-hand item that's cheaper. So if you check eBay, if you check Amazon Express, if you check Facebook Marketplace, if you check any one of these like platforms, I'm sure you should be able to find these second-hand items, and most times they're quite credible, and if they're not, they usually have a return policy, so you can actually go ahead and do these things. There are also some items that come free. So one of my friends actually told me about this platform where maybe someone in your area wants to give out this item that you're looking for free. So you could actually just publish it that you're looking for this particular item, and someone could just be like, oh, I have that at home, you can come pick it up, and it'll be free. So it's called Trash Nothing. So it goes area by area. At least in Manchester, I know that it works. So you can always just put something there that you want to give out, and someone else can say, oh, I would like to have that, and just schedule a pickup date, and it's all sorted. So that's something that you could also be on and just see if there's any little item that comes up that you would actually want. So you don't necessarily need to spend on everything. Just keep an eye out from earlier in your pregnancy, so that when you actually start to see the things you need, you can keep them ahead of your baby coming. I would also advise that you plan an earlier baby shower. It doesn't need to be super early, to be honest. If you want to plan for maybe sometime after 26 weeks, 27 weeks, good and fine. But when I mean earlier, I mean early enough so that you can allow people to have like a detailed registry from you, and the registry should have all the items that you actually need, not luxury and all of that, like the things you need, because your friends are a resource. A lot of them want to spend money on your baby, so give them that opportunity to spend money on your baby. And I say this because I also had a registry, but I had my registry after my baby shower, and I honestly didn't think about how they tie together. But when people brought the gifts for the baby shower, I realized that they really didn't know what to get. They just wanted to get something fancy for the baby. So at the end of the day, because I didn't have a registry, I had like 5 beautiful lush blankets. But I needed other things than blankets. But because they didn't know what I needed, they just got me what they thought would look best for the baby. And they also didn't know the gender, so they're like, I'm just going to get what I think looks best for the baby. So that's what a lot of people end up doing. But if you have a registry and you advise your guests to actually get things off of the registry, you're basically ticking off a lot of the boxes. So that's good. And if they want to get something luxurious or something aesthetic for your baby, then that's their own prerogative. But you could always advise them to get things off of your registry. And also, in this vein, Amazon actually has like a 20% off for a lot of items when you use their Amazon registry. I actually didn't use it. I didn't know about it, but my friend actually told me about it and he's used it and it's been fabulous. So I think that's something you could also do and get good items at new items at very discounted prices. So that's good. There's one quote I heard that sometimes you need to downsize for a season to eat for a lifetime. And I think that's what happens with this period, because there's this urge to get everything. But if you realize that you're actually thinking about your future and your baby's future, not necessarily being stingy towards your baby, like that's not what's happening. You're actually trying to be accountable for this human being's future. And if you think about it that way, I think it's a better way to kind of like evaluate the entire process of downsizing your budget and making all those radical changes that you need to make. So I hope these tips helped you, and if they did, please let me know in the comment section. If you have more tips for moms out there based on your experience, or maybe you work in some of these spaces and you can give some advice, please pop it in the comment section. Like this video and subscribe. Thank you. Take care. Bye.